Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check updates, what's going on in the United States, Washington, D.C., money, investing, and the $3.5 trillion stimulus package that is in the final stages in the U.S. House of Representatives, and they're working throughout the weekend to try to get to the final vote here, as well as the physical infrastructure package that is expected to have a vote on Monday. Also, the U.S. Senate is expected to have a vote in the Senate on a combined bill to prevent a U.S. government shutdown, that the government will have a shutdown on September 30th at midnight if this vote doesn't pass, and to prevent a U.S. default, which are two different issues. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the U.S. will have a government default for the first time ever if they cannot raise the U.S. debt limit, which they need to do just to pay the interest alone on all of the government debt. And this combined bill will be voted on in the Senate. That bill has already passed the House. The problem is that not a single Republican voted yes on that. All the Republicans basically voted to let the government default and to let the government shut down. So if we don't get 10 Republicans to vote yes on this bill in the Senate, then we're headed towards a government shutdown on September 30th at midnight. So we're expected to have a vote on Monday in the Senate on that, and a vote in the House on the physical infrastructure package. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that this week we will also have a vote on the stimulus package this week. I'm going to be giving you guys the details on all of that, as well as what is going on in our country here this week. There's a lot going on in our country. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. New videos. I will keep you up to date with everything going on in our country. Also, if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. Multiple different news outlets are reporting that President Biden may owe up to $500,000 in back taxes. That's correct. This is from Fox News, and I'm going to just show you multiple different news sources so you guys can see this. This is from MSN. President Joe Biden could owe up to $500,000 in back taxes to the IRS. This is from the New York Post. Same story. President Biden could owe up to $500,000 in taxes. This is from the Washington Times. Just to show you this is a news story in the last 24 hours being confirmed by multiple different news outlets. So I figured I would show you this. This story here from the Washington Times says President Biden may have improperly avoided paying Medicare taxes before he took office and could owe the IRS as much as $500,000, according to a Congressional Research Service report. Yeah, this is major news making its way here. This is a new breaking story, so I will keep you up to date on this. The report, which doesn't mention Mr. Biden by name, analyzed cases where the IRS won a judgment against taxpayers who improperly used corporations, S corporations. An S corp is a business entity that allows its owners to avoid paying self-employment workers certain taxes. Tax returns released by Mr. Biden and his wife, Jill, during the campaign showed that their use of an S corporation saved them $500,000 by avoiding the 3.8% self-employment tax. Republicans seized on this report by the CRS, an independent public policy research institute for lawmakers that operates within the Library of Congress. They said that President Biden improperly used the S corporations in 2017 and 2018 when they raked in over $13 million in speaking fees and book sales. That's a nice payday. However, less than $800,000 of that was counted as salary that could be taxed for Medicare. Quote, President Biden was to raise taxes by $2.1 trillion while claiming that the rich need to pay their, quote, fair share. But in 2017, multimillionaire Joe Biden skirted his payroll taxes, the very taxes that fund Medicare and Obamacare, said Representative Jim Banks, an Indiana Republican who told the New York Post. According to this criteria the CRS provided to my office, he owes the IRS and the American people hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes, said Representative Mr. Banks. Mr. Banks, who is a Republican congressman, said, quote, every American should know about Joe Biden's tax hypocrisy. At the time Mr. Biden's tax returns were released, the campaign defended his tax returns. Quote, as demonstrated by their effective federal tax rate in 2017 and 2018, which exceeded 33%, the Bidens are committed to ensuring that all Americans pay their fair share, from the Biden campaign said in a statement at the time. Mr. Biden is pushing to fund his massive $3.5 trillion stimulus package that would fund new child care, education, and health care benefits, among many, many other things, by taxing the wealthy and the corporation. He also wants to close tax loopholes similar to the ones he used on his taxes. So let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comments. Now note that all of these headlines, I'll show you all of these headlines again. Washington Times, Joe Biden may owe. Here's the New York Post, Joe Biden could owe. MSN, Joe Biden could owe. And even Fox News says that President Biden may owe. So all of these are saying that he may or he could owe up to $500,000 in back taxes. So this is an evolving story, and I will keep you up to date as we learn more information. Again, I'm committed to bringing you guys the truth here from the Republican side, from the Democratic side, from the independent side. I consider myself a realist. So either way, from either side, I will be bringing you guys the truth here on my channel. So I will keep you up to date on this story, as well as many, many other stories, stimulus, infrastructure, what's going on in our country, Supreme Court, pretty much everything you guys need to know about. The Moderna chief CEO sees the lasting another year. And I would have to agree with him. We've had a lot of health experts that say that this could be endemic, which means it could last for a long, long time. Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal says that the Progressive Caucus will shoot down the infrastructure bill, which is expected to be voted on Monday, if the $3.5 trillion stimulus package doesn't pass first. Yeah, and we're getting down to the wire here, so I don't know if the stimulus package is going to be passed before on Monday. It's looking unlikely here. So it looks like if the stimulus package does not get voted on before Monday, and Nancy Pelosi has said, I have another tab here somewhere that says Nancy Pelosi says that they're going to vote on it next week. Yeah, here's my tab for that. Nancy Pelosi plans to vote on Biden's spending plans next week, despite Democratic rifts. House Speaker says the party is engaged in intense dialogue over the infrastructure bill and the education, healthcare, and climate package, aka the next stimulus package. So she plans to vote on the spending plan, the stimulus package, next week, despite the Democratic rifts. But the infrastructure package is supposed to be voted on Monday. And Pramila Jayapal is saying that it's might not pass. Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to happen here. Also, we had an incident on the Capitol steps here yesterday where Marjorie Taylor Greene was heckling the Democrats over, yeah, she was heckling the Democrats, and some Democrats actually heckled her back. As Marjorie Taylor Greene, man, she is quite the firecracker, for lack of a better word, on the Republican side. The Democrats she's actually been demoted in the House of Representatives from committees there. Man, she has found herself in some hot water. In several different things there in the House of Representatives. I found it. I don't even want to go into a lot of details on what she said or anything, because I don't even know if I could say that type of stuff on YouTube. You could look into it if you want to. Meanwhile, Senator Joe Manchin, seeks to slow down the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, the stimulus package, also known as the human infrastructure bill, or the social infrastructure bill, or the stimulus package bill. Yeah, it's got too many names, right? Too many names. As the Democrats move forward with the legislation in a critical phase. I almost can't believe this guy. Listen to what he has to say here. You are not going to believe this either. And I'll even explain how you're not going to believe this after he says this. It's unbelievable what this guy is saying here. Check this out. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, some people in the comments might be questioning if he's still a Democrat, of West Virginia on Thursday, insisted that there is no timeline for the $3.5 trillion stimulus package. a stance that threatens the momentum of President Joe Biden and party leaders have sought to build as they push for votes on legislation next week. Biden and Democratic leaders are angling for passage of the gargantuan reconciliation package that would provide critical investments in healthcare, childcare, climate initiatives, and have pleaded with moderate holdouts to identify a figure that could possibly attract their support for the bill. While many of Manchin's colleagues are hoping that the influential senator will point out what he'd like to see cut from the bill, he is in no rush to take such action, as he feels that funding for spending programs is sufficient to last through the end of the year. He says, quote, "What's the need? There is no timeline. I want to understand it." He expressed in an interview with Politico. I may have to see if I can find that interview. I don't think anything runs out right now. We've got good nutrition for children. A lot of things are covered right now into next year. So Joe Manchin says there's no rush, but in all reality, there's actually more rush now than ever, because the Republicans are actually forcing the Democrats to rush this package because of the debt limit and the government shutdown. So remember that on Monday, we're going to have this crucial vote in the Senate for this combined bill for the government shutdown and the debt limit, which is probably going to fail because they're going to need 60 votes. The way it's probably going to go is we're probably going to get 50 Democrats that are going to vote yes, and 50 Republicans that are going to vote no, which means the vote's going to fail. It's going to need 60 votes to pass. And that means that we're going to be headed towards a government shutdown on September 30th at midnight, and a government default, which we can't have happen. We can't have a government default happen, even for one day. It would create a potential stock market collapse. It could create a panic. It could create the government running out of money and not being able to pay creditors and sending a message to the world. And the Republicans are saying they're not going to vote. They're going to vote for the government to shut down and for a default. So the Democrats are basically saying, okay, we have to pass this package here ASAP. The government shutdown is now in 5 days or 4.5 days, however you want to look at it. So they have to pass that before the government shutdown. I mean, we could maybe, depending on however you're looking at this, we could maybe do a little bit of a government shutdown. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but we've had government shutdowns before, right? But we've never had a government default, okay? We can have a government default. Now, estimates say, these are estimates, say that the debt limit breach is possible on October 15th. Here's the problem with estimates, right? This is where estimates get tricky. What if the estimate's wrong and everybody assumes it's on October 15th and it really happens on October 10th? Or what if it happens on October 9th? And what if the Democrats don't get the stimulus package done by then? Or what if it happens on October 5th? Do you see the problem with, and this is why I know this is now, I'm figuring this out now, why Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, said that she didn't even want to take a guess on when the government would essentially run out of money or when the debt limit would be reached. The debt limit is reached when the Treasury runs out of money, basically. They have this emergency reserve fund that had $450 billion in it that they were using starting on August 1st, which is when they should have raised the debt limit. But they didn't even call it to a vote because Republicans were saying they were all going to vote no, and they were trying to negotiate since then, and Republicans have not changed their stance since then. So now they voted, and Republicans still voted no. So now they're in this extraordinary situation that the Treasury have just been using this reserve bank account that the U.S. government has as a reserve fund. And it's gone from $450 billion down to who knows what's in there now. What? 100 billion, 50 billion, and it's running out of money by the day. So at some point in early to mid-October, it's going to run out of money. Government is going to run out of money. And anything that has to do with the government paying money, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, school systems, the military, anything that has to do with government funding is potentially at risk. And that's why we've shown Bernie Sanders talking about this on the show. If you've been watching every episode, you know this. Bernie Sanders says that Social Security could be at risk. We've had statements from Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And meanwhile, the Republicans are saying, we don't care. We're going to vote no. And we're going to just say, well, the Democrats are going to have to take care of it. We're washing our hands clean of it, which, it all sounds fine and dandy in theory, right? The Democrats can raise the debt limit in theory. The problem is that we have to get all the Democrats to agree and go through this reconciliation process. It's not just a let's vote here in the House and let's vote here in the Senate. It's a process that has to do with hours of debate on the floor, and you have to go through these processes that the Republicans are going to vote no along the way. And if you remember from the third stimulus check package, they delay it and they make them read the bill on the floor, and are they going to delay it along the way? So it's just like they're going to delay it along the way, and meanwhile this clock is ticking on this debt limit that if the government defaults, it's the first ever and has cataclysmic consequences to it. This is the game that Congress and our government is playing. It would be so much easier if the Republicans would just say, okay, we know we have to do this. Mitch McConnell has said himself on interviews, you've seen it on the channel. They know they have to raise it down debt limit. Why don't they just vote yes and just get it over with? But nonetheless, they're going to vote on Monday. So we're going to see if they will vote yes. Hopefully they just vote yes and get this over with, put everybody's minds at ease. Anyways, on Monday comes the vote in the Senate, House. We'll vote in the Senate for the debt limit, government shutdown. And we have the infrastructure package vote, which may or may not pass as well. I'll keep you up to date on all this stuff, man, because things are changing by the hour. They're readying the stimulus package. Yeah, don't miss any episodes at this point. It's completely free to do so, and I will keep you up to date. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is how Senator Bernie Sanders wants to include a $1,000 stimulus debit card in the next package. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.